Imagine a single building using more electricity than an entire city. Not a steel mill, not a manufacturing complex, a data center, and not just one. Across America, dozens of massive AI campuses are being proposed, each demanding so much electricity that utilities are being forced to rethink substations, transmission lines, generation plans, and even long-term reliability forecasts. This isn't a future problem, it's happening right now. And the decisions being made today will influence electric bills, infrastructure investments, and grid reliability for decades. So, why are data centers suddenly becoming one of the most important forces shaping the American power grid? Let's break it down. When most people think about the power grid, they imagine homes, businesses, factories, schools, and hospitals. Historically, that's been a reasonable assumption. Utilities could forecast growth by looking at population increases, economic development, and historical electricity consumption patterns. The changes were usually gradual, predictable, manageable. Then artificial intelligence happened. Cloud computing expanded. Digital infrastructure became essential to nearly every industry. And suddenly, some companies started requesting electric service on a scale that utilities rarely encounter. A new neighborhood might require a few megawatts. A manufacturing plant might need 20 or 30 megawatts. Some modern AI-focused data centers are requesting hundreds of megawatts. In some cases, over a gigawatt. That's utility-scale generation territory. And that changes everything. Before discussing the grid impacts, let's define what we're talking about. A hyperscale data center is a massive computing facility designed to support cloud services, artificial intelligence, data storage, and digital infrastructure. Inside are thousands upon thousands of servers, networking equipment, cooling systems, backup systems, power conversion equipment, and increasingly, AI processors operating around the clock. The critical difference is that these facilities don't behave like many traditional customers. A shopping mall sees demand fluctuate. Homes use more electricity at certain times of day. Many factories have varying production schedules. Data centers often run continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That means the grid must be prepared to supply enormous amounts of electricity consistently, not occasionally. Constantly. Forecasting is one of the most important functions in utility planning. Utilities spend years trying to estimate future demand. If they underestimate growth, reliability can suffer. If they overestimate growth, customers may end up paying for infrastructure that wasn't needed. Historically, forecasting was based on patterns: population growth, economic trends, historical consumption. Data centers introduce a different challenge. One project announcement can instantly alter a utility's entire long-term forecast. A utility may have planned for 2% annual growth. Then a developer requests 500 megawatts, or multiple developers request several gigawatts. Suddenly, a decade of expected load growth appears all at once. And there's another complication. Not every proposed project gets built. Some move forward, some get delayed, some disappear entirely. Utilities must somehow determine which projects are real, which are speculative, and how much infrastructure should be constructed before certainty exists. That uncertainty creates risk. One of the first places this pressure appears is at the substation level. Substations are the grid's traffic intersections. They transform voltage levels and distribute electricity throughout the network. Most substations were not originally designed to support hyperscale AI campuses. A utility may discover that an existing substation can support nearby homes and businesses perfectly well. But adding a major data center changes the equation immediately. New transformers may be required. Additional feeders may be required. Protection systems may need upgrades. Land may need to be acquired. Entirely new substations may need to be constructed, and substations aren't built overnight. Engineering, permitting, equipment procurement, construction, testing, commissioning. These projects often require years, not months. Even if a substation can be expanded, another question emerges. Where will the electricity come from? That brings us to transmission. Transmission lines are the interstate highways of the power grid. They move large amounts of electricity across long distances. Many regions are now discovering that existing transmission systems were not built with multiple gigawatt-scale data center campuses in mind. A utility may have enough local infrastructure to serve current customers, but adding several major facilities could require entirely new transmission projects. And transmission projects are among the most difficult infrastructure projects to complete. Land acquisition, environmental reviews, regulatory approvals, community opposition, engineering complexity, these factors can stretch timelines significantly. As a result, many proposed data center projects are colliding directly with transmission constraints. This is where the conversation becomes particularly important. Infrastructure isn't free. Substations cost money, transformers cost money, transmission lines cost money, generation resources cost money. Someone eventually pays. The answer depends on the specific project, utility, regulatory framework, and interconnection requirements. Sometimes developers contribute significantly. Sometimes costs are shared. Sometimes broader infrastructure investments become part of utility planning and are recovered over time. This creates important policy questions. How much should be assigned to a specific customer? How much benefits the broader system? How should costs be allocated fairly? These debates are becoming increasingly common as large load customers continue entering markets across the country. Whenever large loads arrive quickly, reliability becomes a central concern. This doesn't automatically mean blackouts are imminent, but it does mean planners must think carefully. Electric systems are designed around balancing supply and demand. Every hour, every day, every season. Large data centers can materially alter those calculations. Utilities must evaluate peak demand, reserve margins, transmission limits, generation availability, emergency operations, and future growth scenarios. The challenge isn't simply serving one customer, the challenge is serving everyone while maintaining reliability. Homes, hospitals, schools, businesses, industry, and new data centers, all at the same time. What's happening today is bigger than the utility industry. Data centers are becoming economic development tools. Communities compete for them. States compete for them. Regions compete for them. They bring investment, construction activity, tax revenue, technology jobs, digital infrastructure, but they also require enormous physical infrastructure. This creates a fascinating trade-off. Economic opportunity often arrives attached to infrastructure requirements that must be planned years in advance. The challenge is finding balance, supporting growth while maintaining reliability, encouraging investment while managing risk, building infrastructure without overbuilding infrastructure. If you've made it this far, you're starting to see why data centers are no longer just technology facilities. They're becoming major grid planning drivers, and this trend is only accelerating. If you enjoy systems-level explanations about infrastructure, reliability, utility economics, and the future of the power grid, subscribe to GridState. Every week, we'll break down the real-world decisions shaping electricity, energy investment, and economic growth. The American power grid was built to support communities, commerce, and industry. Now it's entering a new era, one where digital infrastructure is becoming physical infrastructure, one where server farms influence transmission plans, one where AI demand shapes utility forecasts, and one where decisions being made today will determine how reliably and affordably electricity can be delivered tomorrow. The story of data centers isn't just a technology story, it's a grid story. And increasingly, it's everyone's story